What is going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? We're going to be talking about a Warlock bond build with that Solipsism, don't know how to say that word, but that nice exotic class item on our Prismatic build. Like you saw in the title and the thumbnail, we're basically getting every single subclass buff on this build. Jolt, Devour, Radiant, everything you can think of over shields. This build is absolutely disgusting, so we're going to cover everything you need to know. First off, with the perks that we have on this exotic class item, so we're going to be using that Spirit of Filament, so casting our Empowering Rift grants us that Devour. Perfect for getting Devour without having to use Feed the Void on this build, which allows us to get even more of those buffs going on. So having that Empowering standing in it, good for a little DPS, plus we get Devour to get our health back. Next on the list is that Spirit of Vesper, so we can run right into enemies, throw that Rift down, get Empowering, get Devour, as well as Arc Shockwaves that create that nice little amplification for us. We're going to be able to jolt some targets with it as well, so the combination of this is super nice. You don't have to worry about enemies really coming close to you when you're inside of your rift, because this is going to take care of it. We're going to have Empowering going on plus Devour, so just inside of using weapons with the class of item already, it's already very good. Now when we move on to our class abilities, etc., we're going to be using our Nova Bomb. Very good for that little bit of extra damage. So since we are going to be weakening on this build as well, of course we are, since we're getting basically every single buff, debuff. Empowering Rift, of course, so we get that increased weapon damage plus that Devour because of our exotic class item. That Balance Glide right here with Arcane Needle, so one, we can get Unravel to happen with this for that nice little unraveling and anti-barrier stun, plus with the Lightning Surge over here, that means we're going to be able to blink forward, jolt, shock those enemies, and we're going to get 3 of them because we got 3 Arcane Needles. On top of that, we're going to be using the Vortex Grenade, so this in general, very good grenade, plus with Faceted Dominance down here, we're going to get weakening on that. So with this build already, we're getting weakening, sever, and unravel, as well as jolt just from right here, as well as with this, we're going to be able to juice it because of that expanding abyss on our journal and that hunter's artifact. Now, like I said, Lightning Surge, we're going to have a Bleak Watcher as well, so when we are weakening targets with that Void Grenade, we're going to be slowing them and freezing them as well, creating some of those stasis shards for us, allowing us to get back our melee back when we picking up, and we can stun those Overload and Unstoppable champions with it by throwing out these Bleak Watchers literally everywhere. Now when we move on to our Fragments, Facet of Hope is our first one. Well, we have an elemental buff, our class ability recharges more quickly, and like I said, with this we're going to have Amplification, we're going to have Radiant, we're going to have Devour, we're going to have Overshield, as well as just so much more that's actually out on the field, like Unravel, Sever, Slow, Jolt, Ignition, as well as Scorch. So it's absolutely crazy everything that we're getting on this build. Facet of Awakening, rapidly defeating those targets with Light, Darkness, or Super Final Blows, generate those elemental pickups. So you can see just with our abilities, we're going to get Strand, Void, Arc, as well as Stasis, plus with our weapons going to get a little extra on top of that. So we are basically getting everything just right there when we are picking them up. Fire Sprites, Ionic Charges, Void Breaches, Stasis Shards, as well as Tangles. It's absolutely disgusting, like I said. Facet of Courage, our Arc, Solar, or Void abilities do increase damage to those targets afflicted by Darkness debuffs. Darkness debuffs, getting that everywhere, like I said. Slow Freeze, as well as the Unravel, Slice, etc. So all of that we're getting with our Weakened, with our Jolt, it's just going to be super juicy. Now right here, when we have that Arc, Solar, or Void buff, our ability Final Blows grant us Darkness Transcendent energy, so we're going to get Transcendent with this build also very easily because of this. Already went over Faceted Dominance, but we do got Faceted Ruin right here, so all of those freezing targets that we're getting and stasis that we're creating from our Bleak Watcher is going to have even bigger explosions, creating a nice AoE effect, creating even more of those stasis shards as well. So combination, like I said, is just absolutely disgusting. Now right here, mod customization, as well as what we went for stat-wise: Resilience, Recovery, Discipline to help us keep those grenades up for our Bleak Watcher, as well as getting that Weaken, Recovery, so we can keep that Empowering Rift up, up, and that devour as much as possible with resilience, just for keeping us alive in that end game. When we have our mods right here, harmonic siphon, because we are going to be using 2 different void weapons, as well as that wither horde for kinetic siphon right there with special ammo finder, so it never ever goes away. Impact induction, momentum transfer, bolstering detonation, just all give us back different abilities depending on what we hit with. So our grenade, our melee, we're going to get back the other 3 based on that. Again, inside of the void resistance on our chest piece, depending on what you are going into, totally up to you. Depending on the activity, you can switch this up to void, solar, arc, definitely a personal choice, and depending on the activity. Now on our boots, pretty much as always, if we're not using weapon searches, we got absolution, orbs of restoration, as well as invigoration right here, giving us our ability spam to the max by picking up all those orbs of power that we're going to be creating, with Reaper helping us to create even more. Powerful attraction, every time we throw down that rift, we're just going to collect all of those orbs that we have been creating, helping us to proc all of these, as well as that bomber, of course, to help us get back our grenades. So the synergy of this build, absolutely disgusting. Now, moving on to weapons, we got the trusty dusty wither horde, of course, very good for that DPS, plus we are getting a little bit of juice from it, creating orbs of power as well because of kinetic siphon. We're going to be using Ellie's pulse rifle right here, repulsor destabilizing. So on top of what we're getting volatility as well on this build. It is just making it even more crazy for that spread. We're getting overshield because of repulsor brace, so like I said, just going absolutely crazy with the buffs, debuffs that we're getting. It makes no sense how many that we can get just by using our weapons, using our abilities a couple times, plus hammerhead, of course, envious killing tally on this thing, do a little bit of extra damage, of course, plus we're getting that weakening effect, so both of these weapons will be able to do a little bit more damage on those because of what we have on our artifact. So speaking of that artifact, like I was saying, a spanning abyss right here is what we are using with that void source, deals increased damage to weaken targets. So when we throw our grenade to weaken a target, our super, as well as both of those weapons in our pulse and LMG are going to do more damage. Right here, we're going to get even more of the overshield, amplification, radiant with what we got going on with the radiant orbs, giving us our abilities. We're going to get our abilities back faster with counter energy, creating some of those elemental pickups, even more than we already have. Tangles, void breaches, we got fire sprites, everything like that. Press the advantage, you get that weapon stability handling, as well as that reload, as well as threaded blast, so we can get some bigger explosions on those tangles, as well as winning hand with the overcharged armory right here for a little extra oomph, as well as the anti-barrier pulse like I was talking about for what we got going on in that Elsie's pulse rifle. Nothing else, we're going to be able to stun our other 2 champions because of our abilities. So this build, we're getting ability spam super quickly, we're getting jolt, we're getting amplification, we're getting overshield, and so much more just by using our abilities. We're using devour, we're getting that nice little arc to jolt people because of Vesper as well. So this build, every single buff like I was talking about, all the debuffs, we're getting a bunch of those different elemental pickups, strand, void, solar, stasis. It is crazy. We're getting arc on top of that with ionic traces, so this synergy of this build is crazy. We're taking it into basically any type of content. Prismatic is pretty disgusting just in general. Definitely put 3.0 builds obsolete for the most part. There's a couple that still slap pretty hard, you can do some pretty cool things with, but Prismatic definitely running supreme. So again, appreciate you guys coming back to the channel, always checking it out, liking and subscribing to the videos, always helps me out, helps out the channel, hitting that bell as well so you guys get those notifications. We're going to be switching up the content, of course, trying to switch it up game wise because Destiny seems to be dying pretty quickly here, but we're still going to be creating content, of course, for Destiny until it is actually done and the servers are shut off. But we are going to be looking to branch out as well, getting variety, because that ADHD in me does love variety pretty hard. So again, really appreciate you guys. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.